This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
All right, let's go with this mandala effect freaking wannabe chapter bullshit.
We are being gaslit by this chapter.
Yeah, but we're here to tell you that you're not crazy.
You're not crazy.
You just have a later edition of the book, that's all.
Yeah. It's one thing when they make changes to a word here or there. You know, Lan sharpening his blade, you know, his power wrought sword. Fine.
Sure.
Yeah. This, they just cut out a whole section in a way that doesn't make any sense.
For no good reason. So listen and find out to what we're talking about, unless you already know, because it's pretty freaking glaring. So I bet some of you already know what we're talking about.
Especially if you're listening in bed.
Nice. Okay, so today, chapter 29, that's the only chapter we're doing. It's a big, hefty chapter with 3 POVs.
Four
POVs. And there's a lot to talk about, a lot of pages. And yeah, I think we should just get on into it.
Is it worth a read-in?
Yeah, sure. I'll do a short little read-in. The chapter is A Terrible Feeling, and our symbol is the snake in the wheel, because we've got 4 POVs, so we might as well have the all-father symbol, the all-encompassing symbol.
This is the Wheel of Time.
Dun, dun, dun! All right. What is Perrin plotting, do you think? Berelain asked as she strolled beside Faile and Aludra. Faile didn't answer. The late afternoon was softly lit by a distant sun shrouded in clouds. Soon, it would make the horizon burn as it sank down for the night. In 2 days, Perrin would go on trial. He'd delayed specifically, she knew, to gain more time for the Ashaman to work out the strange problem with gateways. Their army was growing, still more people flooding to them. Scout reports indicated that the White Cloak force was growing as well. More slowly, but still growing. In days like these, an army was a symbol of strength and, at the very least, food. That's all I wanted to read in. Just, we're at camp. This is the situation. We're waiting. Bubble of evil! That's kind of the scene.
I think it's also important to point out that the dome is up.
Yes.
Specifically because of the fact that Tam leaves later and is retrieved by Codswain. All while the dome is up.
How was Nynaeve able to find and retrieve Tam so sneakily if the dome was in place? I am confused that I didn't notice that I should have been confused by that.
I thought about that. I was trying to get the timing right. And the things I saw online were people like, well, the dome wasn't up yet. And I'm like, no.
The dome is very much up. The dome was up in our last episode.
Yeah. And it's up now, right? This is the whole thing. That's why they're delaying, right? Is because they can't gateway people away.
Yeah. That's explicitly what is happening.
Yeah. And this is the time when Tam is like, I gotta go.
How did Nynaeve happen to know to go just far enough away that she didn't notice that the dome was in place? Like, that's what had to have happened, right? Is she picked a spot outside of the radius, came in by conventional means, took Tam back out by conventional means, and then used a gateway outside of the radius by sheer coincidence?
That's what it seems to be, because the only thing she knew is that he was camped underneath that statue. So you would think she would make a gateway right to that statue.
Exactly what I would do that makes sense.
But that statue is, as far as I can tell, still where they're camped and still inside the bubble.
So we changed the bed scene for no reason, but we left this inaccuracy?
We're really not good at creating suspense, are we?
No. I'm really surprised that I didn't catch that. Glad you caught it, but what the fuck? How are we supposed to resolve that?
That was, I had that moment when I was like, wait, when Tam's leaving, isn't the bubble up? Well, how did that? I get that he was visiting a nearby village, right? And they can say, well, that village was outside the bubble. But then how did Nynaeve find him if he wasn't near the camp? She didn't have any clue as to where he was, because her only clue as to where he was Rand seeing through Perrin's eyes through the swirling of the colors, which only told him where Perrin was, which is underneath the dome.
I guess maybe she went with if you can go off of a map and pick a nearby town strategy, but still, it seems like transporting to the statue. Well, maybe she tried to transport to the statue. It didn't work, and she figured it wasn't accurate enough, so she tried to find, like, the nearest town that people know about to it, and that was, like, from maps. She was able to actually make it to that location, and she figured it was just her rather than the dome that was keeping her from getting to the statue.
You're very carefully spackling over that plot hole.
Yeah, like, this is not... We should have had... This should have been addressed in the narrative. There is a glaring hole here. And there are ways that it could have made sense narratively, but you have to put any amount of legwork on the page into that.
Right. Because, like, it's clear it's just the timeline's conflicting, because in the timeline he wrote with Rand, she gateways in, grabs Tam, and leaves. But then all of a sudden he's created this moment where there's no way to gateway in and out, and that happens to coincide with when Tam got snatched back. So what are you going to do, right? Well, you've got to somehow on the page say, oh, like the dome came down temporarily, or I don't know. It's a hard retcon, but man, you got to do something. You got to do something to be like, oh, Nynaeve couldn't make it in, so she gatewayed to the nearest village, and Tam happened to be there.
Well, because Tam had been sent to the village. Tam and Elias, or Tam and Gaul, had been sent off to check the nearby villages. So that's already there. But why is Nynaeve that far away from this statue? We need something on the page. Otherwise, it's a plot hole.
Yeah, and it's definitely a plot hole.
Yeah. There are ways I can imagine to fill that plot hole, but you got to do some work for it. I'm not just going to give that to you for free.
I mean, we kind of did, but...
No, because I would criticizing it still. We're saying this is what you could have done. You didn't do it.
Right. Here's how you resolve that problem. But yeah, it does. I think it's just a manifestation of the timeline sync, right? I think that's really what's going on, is that, like, this whole Perrin Rand timeline desync, where he ended up sort of sketching out what was going to happen to Perrin, but then, like, not having the details written in, and had to publish a book before he really had an idea of what he was going to do with Perrin's timeline in parallel. Yeah, I think that's the simplest explanation, is that this is one of the things that didn't manage to get smoothed out in that issue, which, oh well, that happens. Timeline desync. I don't know. I hate relieving or forgiving mediocre work in a masterpiece that is The Wheel of Time, that is so good about timelines and so good about, like, making sure things synced up. It's frustrating when you have a new author take over and he's doing a good job, but he doesn't care about the things that Robert Jordan cared about. And so sometimes I get frustrated, because it's just like, ugh. Jordan had the timeline so well synced up. He could have the moon in the sky, and we could tell the time by, like, how accurate the moon was, because he would give it different phases based on what it was. He clearly knew what day everything was happening on almost every scene.
Yeah, I'm not forgiving this. I'm accepting that it's what happened, but I'm not forgiving it.
Right.
I'm not excusing it. But it's inevitable we're going to find some of these flaws with what we've seen already. It's like, well, it's going to happen, you know? It's like food safety standards. You get so many dead rats per ton of grain, you know? Like, it's a non-zero number, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. When somebody takes over. Humans are infallible. Except, of course, Robert Jordan.
Fallible.
Infallible.
Fallible?
Jordan?
Jordan's infallible. Humans are fallible.
Right. But Jordan was, Ogier or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, Jordan definitely is not a normal person like the rest of us.
Like the rest of us.
Us very normal people.
Yes. Well, at least we know he was horny. That we can definitely attribute to being a fairly normal Robert Jordan.
That we can all relate. Robert Jordan did have that one very human attribute. Very horny.
All right, do you want to start taking this in alphabetical order?
Okay, yeah. So basically, Berelain is beginning her campaign to get together with Galad. You think we should send an emissary over there?
I could go.
The leader seems pretty interesting. I mean, I feel like we should talk to them. Maybe I could talk. I mean, I'm a queen, right? I could, I could totally be helpful. Like, she's beginning a campaign that will last for a while at this point.
I mean, and it will end up successfully, right? She ends up.
Yes, and she will win that campaign.
Because it's a good solution, right? As Faile says,
like,
I suggested that she go do that, and I didn't think it would be a white leader of the White Cloaks, but okay, fine. Sidebar: what the hell is a finger root tree?
I'm assuming a mangrove type thing, except this is not next to the ocean, and I don't know about freshwater mangroves. But that was my thought, was a freshwater mangrove, because those have very fingery roots, you know?
I'll buy what you're selling.
I mean, peaches are poison in this world, so why not freshwater mangroves, right?
Sure.
Why not?
Why not?
We've got to mention about the size and flow of the population in the camp. We've got some people who are leaving on foot. Despite the gateway issue, they're still willing to take their chances. And even so, they have 25,000 refugees preparing to be infantry.
Yeah, and about 10,000 they sent through gateways before the dome went up, right? So they got rid of all the people who didn't want to fight, all the people who were like, all the wounded people, all the elderly, all the kids, right? Those people are all gone.
Most of them, anyway.
Most of them are gone. And what they're left with is a force who have found a talent for fighting right before the last battle, which is like, well, I mean, if you know at that point, like, you're going to be in the last battle, it's like, I better learn as quickly as possible. I guarantee these people are dedicated to being like, well, if I'm going to survive.
Right. And even the ones that wanted to leave, if they don't get the chance to leave, they're probably going to... Turns out they were kind of able-bodied and kind of willing to be pushed over, right? Like, if you're triaging out the least fightable people first, yeah, even the ones that still want to leave intellectually are going to be able to be conscripted when shit hits the fan. We get to this annoying part where Faile says that it bothers Perrin when people think he did something wrong. As long as the White Cloaks insist he's a murderer, his name is not clear. And I'm like, who cares what the stupid White Cloaks
think? Right?
These are not
right.
people. These are avowed hate group lyncher people. Like, these are not people whose opinion you need to care about.
It's like when if the KKK was like, you're a murderer, I'd be like, yeah, I don't care if you think that. Like...
Right, exactly. It's like, some people you are not meant to appeal to.
Although I guess the only issue is that, like, you know, some of those that on forces are the same that burn crosses.
Yeah, I mean, it matters legally if they're going to be going after you with the force of law or not. I mean, it matters in that sense. But it is, I don't know, Faile's like, well, he wants people to think good of him. Like, the White Cloaks have given up being qualified as people at this point.
And their opinion of him will never be rational, right? Like, even
Right.
Galad's like, well, he's a dark friend because he has golden eyes, and that's enough to condemn him.
Right, exactly.
You know, and then has to, like, be convinced that that's not the truth. And it's like, dude.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care for your morality at all. At all. I don't subscribe to your entire cosmology.
I think that's why everyone rolls their eyes at this sort of trial. This is just like, what? It's really just a moment. Perrin is using it both to stall and as an up chance to persuade Galad to his side. He's not using it. I just don't feel like he would. I'm not saying he wouldn't accept the punishment, but it's such a dumb thing that he would accept punishment from the White Cloaks. Just such a dumb thing. And I think he says it earlier when he's like, I would never let them actually take me.
Right, but then he does this whole, like, loop-de-loop thing of, like, I will submit to whatever you say after the last battle, and then Galad gets to do the switcheroo where it's like, well, I order you to pay a very reasonable fee to the families of the people you killed, and that's it.
And fight in the last battle to your,
right,
best.
and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, great, cool, so you get to both walk away with your hides intact, but, like, the part we're giving moral high ground to the White Cloaks that they have absolutely already surrendered, like, so long ago.
Right. I also don't really like this part of Faile where she's like comparing. She's like, well, I think my husband's hot, but he's a different kind of hot. And I'm like, oh, fuck you. Like, I don't know. The stained glass cabinet comparison bothered me a little bit.
I didn't like it. Like, I really preferred Rand's line of, like, how can you compare two sunrises? I thought that was a much better way to say everyone has their own beauty than, like, well, this one's meant to be looked at and this one's practical. And I'm like, I don't know, that feels a little body shaming still. I don't know. Yeah, I'm all for objectifying people for being pretty, and I'm all for everyone being hot. But this comparison did sort of land a little flat.
Same. And I understand the comparison he was going to, but it again, it's just like, Faile's just too much into Perrin for this to even be, for her to be putting Galad on that kind of pedestal, right?
I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different kinds of attractiveness. I just feel like pretty versus practical was not the comparison I would go for. I would have gone for something more like a really, like, fancy, delicate, like a tower turret versus like just a really well built like log cabin with like kick-ass windows and like an awesome fireplace. Like we're still luxurious, still very, very nice. Not, oh, it's practical instead and I prefer like that's like the health nut bullshit. Well, I don't eat chocolate, I eat carob, right? Like I don't need pretty things, I just need practical things. Like no, I feel like Galad is like a very delicate kind of beauty, whereas Perrin is a very sturdy kind of beauty. They're both beautiful. One of them is much better to be in during like a serious windstorm, though, for sure. But I don't know. The cabinet felt a little downgrady to Perrin. Like Perrin's more than a cabinet, man.
Yeah, this feels more like a comparison that Berelain should have made in her head, not one that Faile would make in her head.
We go.
That's how I feel about this one, right? Like
yes, it's a fine comparison, not from Faile.
Yes. Exactly. That's my objection is not the comparison. My objection is this is what Faile's saying. No.
Yeah, totally. If Berelain had said it, it would have been like, well, that is the way you look at the world, Berelain. And yeah, Fuji, exactly. Like a bearded blacksmith versus like model prince. Like, yeah, those are very different. It's just different. It's just.
I mean, at least you could have compared them to like Gimli and Legolas, right? I think that would have been. Like...
Well, now we're contaminating IPs, so.
And then I also fucking hate the whole like, Morgaise didn't tell us who she really is. I feel betrayed.
I mean, I like that she's honest about that. Actually, her real issue is that Morgaise is going to presume to judge Perrin.
Yes.
And that she's like, okay, maybe I'm being a little irrational because of the whole husband thing. And I'm like, thank you for the honesty.
That is, you're right. She does sort of make up for that. But I just find it annoying that yeah.
Well, I mean, and Aludra has no such excuse. Aludra is just like, well, I feel deceived by her. And it's like, I mean, you met the real her when you were trying to get out of that burned out basement. You know, that was as real of a version of her as anyone's ever seen.
And just because she wasn't queen anymore doesn't mean that she's not queen anymore, right? And you don't deserve to know about her past.
Right, she was not doing active queen subterfuge stuff. She was not like literally incognito as the queen, manipulating you as a common fool. Like she was just surviving like everyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the knowledge that she used to be Queen Morgaise in no way helps her survive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a worthy conversation for them to have on page. It would be weird if they just like brushed by it like it never happened. Like having messy emotional reactions to that is something that's worth working out. But yeah, it is funny that Berelain's the one who's most like, y'all are being really petty about this.
Yeah.
Like Berelain of all people is the one who has the most grounded perspective.
Yeah, she is practical in certain ways, right? That's the one thing that I've always respected about Berelain is yes, she's got that sexy trope going on, but she's very smart about the way she uses it. It's not just the one thing that she has to throw at everybody.
Yeah, and also she really understands doing what you have to do to survive. Like if there's any ruler who understands making very complicated compromises, it's the first of Mayenne.
Her only blind spot is that she doesn't understand simplicity. She thinks everybody's plotting really complicated plots, and
yeah,
that's not always true. And it's the same thing with the Kyrians had that problem with Rand. Berelain's got the problem with Perrin, which is, wow, he's doing all these really simple, obvious moves. He must have a very complicated motive.
Right. Whereas, Morgaise, say what you will about what she was doing, but she was not simple, right? What she was doing was complicated.
Yes.
What she was doing does make sense to a crafty, politically minded person. It's easy to see what she was thinking.
So during this conversation, the bubble of evil hits.
Yeah, and this is a pretty mid bubble of evil, I would say. It's cool in that it weaponizes the weapons. We've seen that happen a couple of times before. I do like the idea that weapons of war are particularly prone to the Dark One's touch because violence is an evil that erodes at the Dark One's prison. Like, that makes sense to me as a recurring theme.
Yeah, because, and we've seen, what was it, Perrin's axe came alive, right? That was the whole thing we've seen before, and he had to, like, put the axe through the door, and that nearly killed the person on the other side because they were banging on the door and protecting Faile and all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, oh yeah, what if it happened to everybody all at once?
Right, yeah, we're scaling up, right? It's not just the Taviran's personal weapon. It's every single weapon in the entire space near the Taviran.
And I really like the way they fight them and they figure out that, oh, if you put them in the dirt, they go inactive. And then the conclusion, what if you throw dirt at it? Right? I think that's very clever for Faile to have come up with and like as a solution to the bubble of evil.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if you can, like, off the top of your head, think of some good, like, metaphysical reason for why the dirt is what ends the evil animation.
It's grounding out, right? I think of it like electricity.
That was how I was thinking of it, too. I was wondering if we would have different thoughts or not.
The only issue with that is when you're throwing it in the air, then there's no actual connection to the ground, and so it, like, wouldn't actually ground out.
Well, it's not literally electricity. It is magic, so...
Yeah, it is magic, right? Yeah. So the metaphysics only works so far in terms of, like... But the idea that you were grounding the magic and that... or the evil out of the item and it goes into the ground and seeps away kind of appeals to me.
Like Light-Blinded Fools saying the dragon is one with the land. So yeah, returning,
yeah, nice.
Like putting it to the land.
Return
like,
to the dragon.
The dragon can take care of this. Okay, that was basically my thought as well, was that something about grounding, connecting to the earth. Like the planet is solid in a way that the Dark One is not.
Yeah, and in a way that the Dark One is sort of, he's corrupting the sky down first in a lot of ways.
The climate?
Because he's been able to control the weather first, and then sort of as that miasma goes down into the ground, he's starting to be able to corrupt crops and foodstuffs and products and stuff like that.
And then in the next book, we see the metal melting bubble of evil, where the only thing that still works is stone. And it's like, okay, even refined earth materials aren't safe anymore. Now you have to just work with the raw materials of the earth that no human intention has ever touched. Oh, no, that's good. That's good. That has a cosmological spiral to it that is nice.
And I think it agrees with the clouds in the World of Dreams and the storm that's tearing it apart.
Totally. No, I like that. And also we get in this bubble of evil a lot of good teamwork, right? We get Berelain and Faile working together. We get Faile figuring stuff out that then translates to the Aiel. There's a lot of the camp quickly moving information around. The technology of throwing dirt at the weapons spreads quickly. But also we get, Faile and Berelain having a little bit of a trauma bond, right? They actually go through something serious and real and scary, and it actually erodes some of the tension between them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got a wound, rub some dirt in it. It's like
got an annoying neighbor, throw dirt at him. That's funny. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, dirt. We live in a too clean world. Your microbiome is lacking dirt, so you got to throw
Eat
some dirt
mud
on
pies.
it.
Yeah. I always wonder about that. I mean, I know the one thing that I learned recently is just how common parasites used to be in people, and how much our immune systems are kind of trained to be constantly fighting parasites in your system. And without the presence of parasites, it's possible a lot of the autoimmune disorders and a lot of the allergies that have sprung up is an overactive immune system that lacks a foe, like a parasite, to fight against. And so then it just makes up shit to fight.
Well, I hate that hypothesis.
because the human condition for so long has been you have parasites. And now we have drugs that stop that. And
I am not going back to being riddled with parasites. No, thank you.
But maybe we can make the immune system less crazy, right? There's sort of this idea that maybe we could do something that way, or give it something else to fight against. If that's the problem, yeah, it's like
let's give you a fake parasite so your immune system will stop chewing on you.
Yeah, 100%. Right? There's this idea that we live in a world that's just too damn clean, and our bodies are designed to live in a much dirtier, nasty world where we're infected with all sorts of things, and we die a lot younger, right?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, also, a lot of people with autoimmune disorders don't get to live into their adulthood in that pre-germ theory, parasite-riddled world. They die much, much younger.
Right. But they don't have hay allergies.
No, because they're dead. Hard to have hay allergies when you're dead. But no, that's an interesting angle of attack on the why are immune systems as much hindrance as help sometimes.
And why can they just go overzealous and attack your body? And it's because parasites have all these mechanisms to remain hidden in your system. And so your body sometimes will overreact at minor stimulus, thinking it's parasite.
Fascinating, because clearly parasites are bad. It's in the name. They're bad for you. You're not supposed to have things sapping away at your vital life force, but there is such a thing as going too far, at least in terms... Because, I mean, also, like, our bodies are not designed to operate into an optimal state, right? Like, we're just cobbled together systems that haven't killed us yet, so, like, sloppy.
And we just survive long enough to reproduce. That's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is why cancer is becoming more and more prevalent, is because we're getting rid of all the things that kill you before cancer.
Right.
And eventually, cancer is all that's left. I mean, there's lots of reasons why there's more cancer, but a big part of it is we're just reducing a lot of the other things that have killed people. People
are living longer, and if you live long enough, eventually...
And are surviving wilder things,
right?
Like,
right.
So many things that would have killed people are, it's just a flesh wound rather than a death sentence. And so, yeah, complicated.
No, and if you look at history, just how many people were killed by big cats and snakes, you know?
Yeah, I have personally never had to seriously avoid a large cat or a snake in my entire life.
Small cats, on the other hand, have fucked me up pretty good.
Well, yes, there's that. And I do make choices to avoid being a snack for a big cat. That is a thing I think about when I go into the woods. I've just never actually seen a big cat in all of that.
No, you wouldn't see it.
I have seen some videos from people being stalked by cats, which are upsetting.
So, yeah, and end of the bubble of evil, right? Spread the word, take down the bubble of evil. They survive. We'll get a recap later on in the chapter as to what happens. But we POV switch to Morgaise and Galad in his tent.
Yes, having a much needed heart-to-heart discussion about the situation without an audience.
Where they don't appear to be affected by the bubble of evil.
Yeah, the bubble of evil seems to be very localized to Perrin's camp because they're in the White Cloak camp. This conversation is happening 2-3 miles down the road, I think.
And we find out via Tam that it's not happening in any of the surrounding villages either.
Yeah, the radius for this stuff is much smaller than the dome of transportation fuckery.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Morgaise is saying, it's not your fault that I got screwed over by the White Cloaks. It's, like, okay for you to not feel guilty about that. In which Galad replies, well, I can feel guilty about misaccusing Valda before I killed him. Although I don't feel guilty about killing him. He still needed killed.
He still raped her, right? Is basically what they're saying, right? It's like, yes, you were still alive and I killed him for raping and killing you, but he still raped you. So worthy death. I will have to announce that, yes, he didn't kill you because you're obviously still alive. And if I base my ownership or command post in the White Cloaks on this idea that I killed him for killing you and you're still alive, well, that's now I have a flaw in my power structure. But after talking to Morgaise, he's able to figure out that there was a legitimate reason for killing him, and so his power base is not unstable. He just has to put out a statement.
Right, which no one ever cares about, but whatever. And we get a good insight from her, which is some of the Sanderson's better cliche, but it works for me writing. She should have realized he'd be attracted to the White Cloaks for their vision of a world that was black and white. Could she have prepared him better, shown him that the world was not black and white? It wasn't even gray. It was full of colors that sometimes didn't fit into any spectrum of morality. I freaking love that line. It feels so cliche and yet so true, you know?
Well, and one of the things that I really wish that we'd address is like, why didn't she? Like, it feels like that was part of her upbringing of those kids. You know, was Galad excluded from that? Because I feel like Elayne talks about this all the time. You know, and so, like, what was he missing? What did she get? Is it just because Elayne was the next daughter heir, and so Morgaise spent more time with her, teaching her about these lessons?
Yeah, I think that's what it is, because he wasn't even going to be first Prince of the Sword, right? She tried to give him as much attention, but you just can't when he's the stepson who's not going to have an official position in the structure. Like, as much as she wanted to love him as a mother, as a queen, she did kind of end up focusing on the other two more,
right.
I think.
Right.
But I just love it's not black, gray, and white. It's all kinds of colors that are hard to classify and don't fit linearly. Like, you know, obviously the autism spectrum, great example, but also just every other binary that I refuse to accept because binaries are dumb. I like it. Spectrums of things that don't fit onto a moral scale is just, yes, we need more people in the Wheel of Time universe learning this. You'd think that the Queen of England, Andor, would have done a better job of, like, exporting that kind of intellectual thought, rather than just, the Andorrans are prudes. Like, the queen has some pretty cool philosophy, but we're going to focus on having high necklines as our soft power. Like, okay, I don't know. That's a weird choice to me, but whatever.
They talk about Perrin a little bit, Morgaise saying he's a good man, Galad saying he has to pay, her saying maybe he shouldn't pay, right? Like, isn't that necessarily... Good men can do bad things occasionally, and sometimes punishing them is just punishing a good man who made a mistake. Hint, 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 hint. We're going to set up a reason. This is basically setting up the Galad giving Perrin a non-punishment at the end.
Right. A punishment that fits the whole situation, not just the objective crime. Right? Because Perrin feels bad about it. So, okay, make amends. Like, literally give restitution to the widow. Okay, cool. Or not the widow, but, the parents, whatever.
And I sentence you to serve in the last battle, which he was going to do anyway.
Which he was going to do anyway.
It's like time served,
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so they do all this philosophical back and forth stuff. They talk about Linny and, like, would he have tortured and killed Linny to make a point? And then if he makes an exception for her, then does that make his actions actually still really terrible if he would, like, accept her from them just because he knows her? Like,
yes.
Hey, you're backed into a corner, Dick Waffle.
And then he sort of says, I do like him going back to the original text and saying, even though he uses the word witches for Aes Sedai, which is completely pejorative and terrible, but he does say, hey, at least our original text doesn't say that all women who use the power are corrupt. It just says people who have the power can be corrupted, and it's something to look out for. Which, I mean, Black Oddjaw, right? Like,
yeah, totally. I mean, the Forsaken,
right?
Like, this is a reasonable take given history.
In the same way that, like, money corrupts, right? We see a lot of people with money, a lot of people in politics who are corrupted, but it doesn't mean we should go around slaughtering those people necessarily.
And it also doesn't mean that everyone who owns a business of any size is equally corrupt to, like, the biggest mega corporation people, right? Like, the people having money.
Healthcare CEOs, on the other hand.
Yeah, it's like not everyone who has a savings account is equally the problem here, Right.
Not all of us who invested in the stock market are the problem.
Right.
Just because our retirement's tied up with it doesn't mean, like, we're the stockholder owners that are dominating the way the economy is being crushed. Because, like, all the people who own retirement stock own like 10% of the stock market, if that.
Right.
And it's like the other 90% is dominated by people with lots of money.
Yeah. So, yeah, money is not the problem. The one power is not the problem. It's the institutions that allow individuals to collect far too much influence with that power or money that are the problem. Which is a good insight. I appreciate that the founder of the Children had his head not completely screwed on the wrong way.
And the thing about the one power is you've kind of limited by how much you've got. You've got what you got. You can't, like, gain more power through corruption.
And not just anyone can have it, right?
Yeah.
In theory, any person, any individual can accumulate money, can accumulate wealth. You cannot manifest the genetic ability to channel the one power by hustling, right? It's just not, like, the same mechanic does not exist. It's like one of the few things even the Dark One can't grant, right? You know, it's a whole thing.
Hence Slayer.
Right. And then Morgaise gives him a story about the one time that she knows she sentenced an innocent man to death on accident. The one time she is positive that she made a mistake. And let's extrapolate that to all the things that a ruler is responsible for and the complexity of the human condition and the fact that we make mistakes and we always operate from incomplete information. And how do we handle that morally? Which is, a good story. I think it's good to have a ruler say, there's no way that I'm infallible. It's just not possible. How are we going to handle that?
And should I be executed for executing an innocent man, even though I did my best at the time?
Right. It's a really good discussion to have, particularly with Galad, particularly with a White Cloak who is so potentially redeemable.
And the decision to swing an axe versus sentence someone to death is, they're different kinds of decisions, but similar in a lot of ways.
Right. Though your voice is unlikely to leap out of your face and start trying to attack you the way an axe might.
Right. But it's either way, your actions directly are leading to somebody's death.
Right.
And you have to take responsibility for that. And occasionally, if you're in the business of doling out deaths, justified or otherwise, you're eventually going to make a mistake.
Right.
Which is why I don't believe government should have the authority to kill people. But that's...
Yeah, capital punishment is Not good.
It can never be undone, or you can never be let out early from capital punishment.
No. There's always edge cases to argue about. But yeah, broadly speaking, capital punishment is bad for a society.
I remember having one of my first debates in like middle school where they make you debate political topics in government or whatever. And I was assigned the pro death penalty argument, and I had to come up with arguments pro death penalty. And I remember at the end of it, the only thing I could come up with was, well, the world's overpopulated. It reduces world population. And I think my teacher, I was terrible. But I was like, I can't come up with a good, decent argument for capital punishment. So that was my argument. So I think that was the first time where I went, oh, maybe this isn't a good thing.
I mean, that's a really good outcome of that exercise in middle school. That's why you should do that.
This was also Texas, right? So I think everybody else had also like, oh, it punishes criminals and this and that. And I was like,
Yeah, it reduces resource demand.
Yeah.
You can say that.
Which is kind of bullshit, because actually trying someone for the death penalty takes so many resources that it's millions of dollars in resources to do the trial and the judge and everything, because they get so many appeals.
Yeah, because it's a dumb thing for us to have as part of our judicial system. Edge cases notwithstanding. Like, God. So Galad and Morgaise get interrupted by news of the weapons bubble of evil, and we need another delay, and Galad is now unsettled enough by Morgaise's philosophical questions that he's like, fine, I will refuse to answer the question, which is effectively saying, yes, we can delay.
I will consider it. Okay, well, consider it for a couple of days while we delay.
Yeah. Go ahead and consider that for, 72 hours. Thank you. And then we switch back over to Perrin for a little debrief aftermath of what the bubble was like.
Right. You've got days of healing to get to everybody, because you have a limited number of channelers, and basically everyone in the camp had to fight a weapon. So I'm actually surprised there's so few deaths. Like, that's one where you're talking about like, 5%, 10%, 20% of your army should be dead.
Yeah. I'm guessing that maybe a lot of them were working with staffs, which would have not reacted the way that edged weapons would have. And then also just people got the memo about dirt real fast. Probably also a lot of people figured out dirt spontaneously at the same time, because of course you would try to stab something into the ground to hold it there. And
as opposed to the door that like Perrin did.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I imagine a lot of people tried to put their daggers into the ground when they jumped out. Like, Berelain and Faile cannot have been unique in their strategy, right?
Oh, or noticing that once one arrow or dagger goes into the ground, it goes still, and then realizing, you can throw dirt at the other ones. Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people would have figured that out more or less at the same time, but still, it does seem like...
No, Faile's unique and smart, and no one else could have ever figured that out.
I mean, who am I to diminish women's accomplishments? So sure. But yeah, it does seem like they got off very, very lightly. For an army in the act of training, getting Bubble of Evil in the middle of the day, you probably should have had more death. I mean, like, if the Ta'veren is going to bring the Bubble of Evil misfortune, I don't think you should also get to have Ta'veren good luck with your athletics rolls at the same time. That feels too complicated.
I mean, you have channelers who can heal, right? So the worst of the people, if you can survive for a little while, you can be fully healed up.
Sure. I do like Gaul's comment after. He's like, it's been years since I've been shot with my own arrow. Or I shot myself with my own arrow.
That was funny.
I love Aiel humor.
That was good Aiel humor. Yeah, I feel like I've been missing a fair amount of the Aiel humor lately, and that was a little nugget in there I liked a lot. Yeah, we get the bit about how his hammer didn't try and kill him, and he's like, I wonder why. And it's like, because it's not a fucking weapon, right? Like,
yeah, like, did you not spend 4,500 pages telling us about why? Why are you wondering? Yeah. You know why. Like 3 chapters ago, you figured that out.
Yeah, we just had a whole revelation that we talked about how it was another time that you realized that the weapon, the hammer can be chosen for work or a weapon, and the axe can only be a weapon, and that's the difference. And like, oh my God, you had a whole revelation about that.
Yeah, the idea that he's wondering is just like, I want to throw this book.
Yeah.
I want to throw it right out the window into the rain.
There's no progression on the characters. They just have the same problems that they ruminate over and over and over and over again. And if I want to go into like why I don't like the latest Stormlight Archive books as much as I like the original ones, that's a big part of it. His characters cannot progress. They have the same problems. They overcome them in a book, And then the next book, they're right back on the same problem again. And a lot of people are like, well, it's so realistic. People have the same problems. They never really accomplish, they never really get out of their own heads. And I'm like, that's not why I'm reading a book. I'm reading a book for character progression.
Also, like, lots of people do move on through their problems when they do actual therapy that really means something. Like, you move on to the next iteration. You move on to the next tier of the spiral. You have a new problem.
Right.
Same pattern, new problem. Like, just literally repeating it, like, that's only for people who don't go through big revelations. If you go through a truly transformative revelation, the next time that problem pops up, it will be iterated in a new way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't feel like Sanderson can do that with his characters. It feels like his characters get stuck in this mire where they literally just have a singular problem that they go over and over and over and over again and figure it out and then go right back to it.
Man, that's boring. Light-Blinded Fool is pointing out that maybe the lack of therapists in these two worlds and who those therapists are might be the problem.
What, you saying Grendel being the only therapist in modern Wheel of Time era is a problem?
And although I'm not familiar with Stormlight properly, I do know the name Kaladin. And that being paired against Grendel, that seems like a problem.
Oh my God. The word therapist in relation to Kaladin is a whole nother fucking problem in those books. We can discuss. This is not the right forum to discuss that issue.
All right. So the last thing in this section is Tam getting whisked off. And that's, as we discussed earlier, incongruous with the dome situation.
Yeah, right. I feel like we had that conversation, yeah.
That's all I've got in that POV, and then we switch to the last POV of the chapter, which is Elayne, which has a lot of good stuff in it, and the teased at the beginning radical edit that makes no goddamn sense.
The radical edit. So, shall we just talk about it? So this is the chapter where she gets hauled up onto the wall to watch the cannons being fired for the first time. And in the audiobook and in the original version, they literally, because she promises Melfane that she's going to stay in bed, they literally haul her 4-poster bed up the side of the castle wall and put it on. And to me, that's, one of the memeiest, funniest, best parts of the Sanderson stuff is like, yeah, it was funny, but yeah, Elayne keeping to her word by having her bed literally hauled up the side of the castle was a funny, interesting, memorable part of this book. And as we're reading through, Rady goes, hey, isn't this the section where she got hauled up the wall? And I was like, yeah, and that's not in here. In the book, the digital book and the book that Aradia is reading, she's put in a litter instead of in her 4-poster bed, and the litter is literally carried up through the halls on shorter posts.
And they just go up the spiral stairs, and it's no big deal.
Rather than setting up a whole winch to winching her up the side. And they took out 2 or 3 paragraphs describing her being... Whole paragraphs just gone from this book of her being winched up.
And we know because we're audiobook files, and you can't change the goddamn audiobook.
And they did. Well, they changed the book, but they didn't change the audiobook. So we can hear Kate Redding.
Yeah, we listened to it before we came on the call with y'all. Like, it's
literally just like we were like, wait a minute, this is wrong. So we put on the audiobook and spent 20 minutes listening to this chapter and that section. And yeah, there's some edits in there. There's a lot of edits. Just obviously bed becomes litter in a couple of sections. And then, yeah, the whole section where she goes up the spiral staircase is completely different in the 2 versions.
So literally in the second paragraph, at first, the original promise was she had promised to stay in bed, but she had said nothing about staying in her bedroom. In the book, it says now she'd given an oath that she would stay off her feet.
Yeah.
So right out the gate, they've changed it. And then we've got in the audiobook, it says 8 guardsmen are carrying her because it's a 4-poster bed. In the book that I have now, it is 4 guardsmen. Also, she's not sitting in the center of the bed. She's sitting safely between armrests. And There's a couple of other changes with the litter. It's just every time it's bed, it's turned to litter. Originally, she is carried in a 4-poster bed that takes 8 men to carry.
I also noticed in this book, this is where they didn't change it. Brigida strode alongside the bed.
There. Bed. You're right. They didn't fucking get that one. Ha!
They didn't even get the edit right.
Ha!
Because that should have been leader.
Yeah, litter.
Leader. Leader of Elayne. Can I get a leader of Elayne? Do we even serve a leader of Elayne?
Can we get Elayne to be a leader?
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, they get to this wall tower turret and then hit a snag as they realize that the poles on the litter are too long. Luckily, there's an alternative, and they go zoop-a-doop-a-doop. And there's literally 2 hilarious, maybe even 3 hilarious paragraphs about how she insists on how they're going to have to winch her up the side of the outer wall while, like, as though she was a large block that was being brought up for some of the siege defenses. Like, they have the mechanism to do the winching, and she's, min safe in terms of the engineering there. She knows a rope isn't going to break. And so there's this whole hilarious scene where she insists that they treat her like a boulder, and there's people gathered on the street below, and they're pointing and laughing, and she realizes at one point how incredibly high up she is and how intense it is. And also there's a section where she has to get lowered down again. It's so funny. It's so Elayne. It's so Sanderson, and it's just gone.
Gone. Yeah.
Why? Why is it gone? It's so funny. What is the point of removing it?
It's like Elayne in the bath, Elayne in the bed. That's the sort of it builds her character to be this like sort of loungy, queenie character, and to just put her in a litter is practical. That's what they would actually do if she hadn't sworn the oath.
Yeah, she literally swore an oath to stay in bed, and they changed the goddamn oath. They changed the oath. Embarrassing for everyone involved. I don't understand why. I completely agree, Vuji. Elayne was robbed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is entirely the result of later editions. So yeah, if you're reading a later edition printing and you're wondering if you're going crazy, you're not. Go listen to the audiobook, or just trust us that we have listened to the audiobook as of the day we made this recording. And that is absolutely in the original audiobook. And if you find an original printing of the book, you will see that. I don't understand why they felt the need to take this out. It's really disappointing.
I'm curious. So I'm back in To Make a Stand, chapter 24, where she makes the promise. And she says, in this book, Melfane, you aren't to be on your feet for 1 week. And then here it says bed rest for a week, but she only thinks that.
I'm curious if the audiobook is the same.
Mm-hmm.
If they actually would have bothered to make the edits going back all the way that distance.
Let me see if I can find the actual promise. I don't think she ever promises. She just gets browbeaten. She keeps saying, but. And Melfane's like, no, you're staying. And then Matt comes in. So she never actually promises anything.
Yeah. So a lot of incongruities in the original. Well, I guess, no, you're looking at your new book, your digital book.
Yeah, I'm looking at so it's not like I don't think they'd have to go back and make edits to that necessarily, but
yeah.
For those of you who listen to the audiobooks, like you're never going to read the version where she doesn't get hoisted up, right?
Yeah, those files are not going to get changed or re-edited. It's not going to happen. Those are the way they are forever and always.
Which is why I kind of like having those and in the regular book, because we find so many incongruities that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have, just recent paperbacks because I wanted to have a copy to like mark up and stuff,
I bought the digital book, so I think that gets updated. They can make changes and just push those without ever notifying you.
Yeah. And if Rosamund Pike were to do the entire series, undoubtedly that would be with the new text.
Right.
But I don't think that's going to happen.
I think she's done with it. I think she's moving on from Wheel of Time entirely. I don't see her narrating any more of the audiobooks.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong, but we might get one more out of her if she was in the process of making it or something, but I doubt it.
Yeah. But, in that alternate timeline, I guess that would be with the new text. But even then, you would know it was not Michael and Kate. The Kate Redding version of this chapter will always be the correct, original, funny version.
Right.
Now, apparently, recently, Pike said she does plan to.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
prove
guess.
me wrong.
There you go. So we are now on top of the wall, ready for Aludra's demonstration of her second. This isn't really the test. She had the first test, and now she's going to demonstrate that test again for the investor.
The first public. Yeah, you always test in private. And you always hope that you don't,
Right.
The first demonstration of the iPhone in public, everyone talks about how that was just like smoke and mirrors because like if he'd done anything in any other order, the software was so buggy that it would have crashed immediately, right? This idea that like, yeah, we got it done in private and we're going to show you something. But this is a little different where it's like, oh yeah, this is working and we just need to make more of them.
Right. So yeah, now it's time to show the investor, both Elayne and Matt, what it is that they are manifesting. And so she's got, the dressing dummies out on the hill, and she's got a dummy cannon on the wall with Elayne, and then the live one is one tower over. Matt is on that one because of course he is. He wants to be on the live tower.
Yeah, the one that's actually firing.
Which, given that he doesn't seem to appreciate how loud the thing is going to be, I'm going to assume his hearing is forever worse after this because he didn't realize to plug his ears the first time.
My only thing is like with Aes Sedai healing, if he ever got healed, I feel like that would restore healing.
True.
But of course, Matt's never going to get healed if he can avoid it.
He does get healed eventually because he can't avoid it at some point, somewhere along the way.
At some point.
I think Moraine gives him a wash of healing after they get out of the tower because his eye is all,
that's right,
crusty and stuff. So presumably his hearing is bad between here and then.
Well, and that's also a thing that like repeated exposure over time destroys your hearing. One bang.
It's a big bang.
And it can cause hearing loss. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not going to, say that one big bang can't, but it's the repeated exposure that causes most people in the military to lose hearing in the ear that's like closest to the gun or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. The human ear is very resilient, but I'm just saying he is very close to a proper cannon with no appreciation for how loud it's going to be. So,
side question about Aludra. Why does she have her hair out of her braids today?
I was hoping you had an answer to that because I also noted it and was like, we've never seen her without braids. Never once. And it's a very, very distinctly Terraboner style.
And today's a very important day to her.
And she's very much not being a Terraboner in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has something to do with her kind of reinventing herself. I mean, kind of like how Egwene, left her Two Rivers braids behind, or braid behind. Like, it kind of feels like that, except that Aludra's been displaced. And when she was an Illuminator, first of all, like, being a Terraboner is not really her primary identity. She was an Illuminator, and now she is the only person left in the guild. But maybe this represents like a really big change for the guild, for them to be making a military engagement with a ruler.
Maybe, but the braids to me were never guild related. They were always Terraboner related.
Yeah. So I don't know why. Light-blended fool. Well, maybe Matt had her tearing her hair out.
She had to put it down so she could tear at it, yeah. Instead of pulling on a whole braid, because that wouldn't work. Maybe.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything. It's clearly something to do with how she feels about this test and the transition in her career, but I can't parse it beyond that.
Same. Because the braids we don't really know what the braids mean to Terraboners. There's no like, oh, it's just a style that was common in Terrabon. We don't know that it was.
I mean, that's as much as I've ever concluded. It's a regional style.
Unlike with the knives and the hilt that have meaning to them in Abu Dar and stuff like that, right? There's no meaning. It's not like, oh, you get a braid for every man you kill, or
Right. Yeah.
You braid your hair until you've accomplished your life goal, or you braid your hair until you've accomplished the method of revenge against the Shanshan. There's nothing like that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe, that's a good point, that maybe the braids kept the hair out of her way while she's working with fireworks and explosives, and now that she's not really necessarily working with them, she takes them out, but that doesn't make sense.
I feel like any amount of being an engineer means your hair should be contained.
Exactly, yeah.
If not just short.
The braids always made sense for Aludra for that reason, but...
Right, exactly. I don't know if her hair texture is the kind that needs protective braids in general, but certainly being an engineer, her hair needs protective, like hiding from all the boomy, explodey things that she's around.
And you just don't want hair getting in your chemical reactions, No,
you don't want it getting caught on flywheels. You don't want it contaminating samples. There's so many things you don't want your hair doing.
I know, I constantly have to fight that. My hair gets everywhere. My long flowing locks of non-existent hair.
Yeah, I was thinking like you're really experienced on the hazards of hair in an engineering workplace.
The funny thing is I am, though, because I deal with, vacuum chambers on a regular basis, right? All the chambers that I'm opening and closing are under, crazy high vacuum. And one of our biggest problems is little hairs that get across the seal. And when you close it down, that provides a pathway across the seal for air to get in. And that's enough of, even if it's just a couple of atoms, that's enough where it's like a real problem for our processes. And so we're in, suits to keep that all from getting out. But like my head is not the only place that I have hair. And like little arm hairs and little, we get these tiny little filament hairs that are microscopic. You barely even realize they're on your body, but they can still be a problem. And so we have to clean and inspect everything before we put it back together because we're humans and we have hair.
Yeah, no, I believe it. Literally, if you pay enough attention, there's hair everywhere.
Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why we wear these clean room suits because they supposedly contain all that. And they contain most of it. But
right. To say nothing of the pet hair that your regular clothes is going to
my God. You can see it on me right now. I miss having Timber because his hair was all black and I have all dark clothes. Harvey's a tan dog and his hair shows up on everything.
Yeah. I was visiting my in-laws' dog yesterday for a little dog sit, and he is a golden retriever with hairs the length of my arm. I swear to God, it's just everything covered in long white gold hair.
Fortunately, Harvey had, when we got him, he still had his puppy hair. He had like this really golden, very light, uniform gold color hair. Tan, very tan, I should say. And then the first winter we had him started, and he started shedding like a maniac. And I took out, and I could tell that because he hasn't regrown the coat. It's been another year, and he never regrew it. But I basically brushed out his entire puppy coat. And underneath it, he had I wouldn't say much thicker, but a thicker, more goldeny with black highlights fur as opposed to just a white tan all over. And so he gained like patterns and stripes that he didn't have before. But pulling all that hair out, it was getting that was like a couple of months of just like absolutely just covered head to toe in blonde puppy fur.
Yeah. Oh, Light Blinded Fool put an amazing idea in chat. Maybe Aludra met someone new who took her glasses off and shook out her hair.
Oh my God, she has bat guano on her overalls.
Yeah. So maybe this is our one sign that Aludra is having a love life separate from the plot. Maybe that's what it's about. Or
maybe that Matt is with Tuan, can let her hair down because before she was like trying not to attract him. And now that Matt's taken, she can like relax a little bit because he was such a horn dog around her.
Yeah, no, I don't think that Matt is truly she had her hair in braids before she ever met him.
Well, they did make out quite a bit.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Aludra changes nothing for Matt. Yeah, okay, fine.
Birgitta comments that maybe they should be having this demonstration from a farther distance away. And Elayne says, after all I went through to get up here? And I'm like, what, shipping the ores on your little litter and getting carried up the stairs? Yeah, that was a big problem. Nothing like getting hauled up the outside of the wall crenellations in your 4-poster bed would have been.
It's almost like changing those acts and not changing the context around them makes them sound silly.
Why did they take that scene out? I understand changing Lan's power wrought sword to a regular dagger. I understand changing Tom's harp to a lute. I don't understand taking out Elayne being hauled up the side of the building.
I understand not stringing your bows in the rain or keeping them strung or not keeping the harp tuned all the time, right? That's a change they made, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
I even kept it in tune. No one would keep it in tune. That puts stress on it while you're traveling.
Yeah. Then they just changed it to at least you didn't keep it in tune and it was fine. Like it didn't change anything. One little word makes it more accurate. Fine. They just took out whole paragraphs of physical comedy. Why? For what?
And I feel and there's so many jokes about Elayne in the bed, right? Elayne having
in the
she
four-poster
takes baths and she's in bed in the 4-poster bed, right? I'm really upset about this. This is actually taking a tenet that I consider core to the way she was written by Brandon Sanderson. and actually one of the better characterizations of Elayne, right? This idea that A, she sticks to her word, but B, she's in a 4-poster bed. She has a 4-poster bed, and C, she would have that hauled up at the expense of a bunch of labor rather than just not witnessing the demo and having it reported to her, right? Like, all of those things fit her character so well and are so well written, and this just lessens the impact of that so much.
It makes her less funny, less well-rounded, less... It was fun sparkle on the Elayne character that's just completely gone. I don't think Maria or Harriet would have taken it out. I think it must have been some boring person with no sense of fun. I still want to know why. I still want to know under what possible explanation someone was like, this is an unacceptable thing to leave in the book. Sama Nasai, I charge you with asking Maria at a con, or someone in the audience, ask Maria at a con about this.
Because this is something she should have been involved in, unless it happened like after her. Because I don't see anything. Nothing easily Googleable pops up. But
okay, well, yeah, in April, Sama Nasai, we will remind you and everyone else to make a stink about this. We need to get to the bottom of it. It's some nonsense.
Isn't she still on the job? I'm not sure that the Wheel of Time group is really doing anything anymore.
I don't think
there is a job.
Team Jordan exists to help with the fandom interfacing with itself and with Harriet. I don't think Team Jordan has anything to do with the content creation in that way. But they still exist as like people that care about, the estate and all the fan people that want to do fandom things. Anyhow, Elayne is a little skeptical about what this cannon is going to do until she sees it work, and then she is immediately converted into being super, super excited that she has cannons, right? Because the thing is that if you don't understand the power of gunpowder, then you're not going to understand why throwing a rock all that distance is going to make a difference. You're like, well, it's just a rock. How's it going to do anything? But the impact is so much bigger than the rock.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are they throwing something? They're throwing a sphere, but they light a fuse on that sphere. Is the sphere also full of gunpowder? So basically my question is, are they launching a solid metal ball, or are they launching something full of gunpowder that can explode when it gets to the destination? Because I always thought it was just a solid metal ball being thrown with such force that it causes the explosion. But in the description...
There's a fuse coming out of the sphere and a fuse on the... I didn't notice that.
A fuse and the cannon and a fuse on the sphere. And they light the fuse on the sphere, drop it in, and then set off the cannon.
It has to be exploding ordnance. There's no reason for there to be two fuses. If this was just a bullet, I never noticed that it's a bomb and not a bullet. I always thought it was a bullet. I didn't realize it was actually a bomb.
And would that work?
But that totally makes sense because she's riffing off of night flowers, right? She's not riffing off of slingshots. She's riffing off of night flowers.
Night flowers you launch and then they explode once they're up in the sky. And these dragon eggs you launch and then...
You launch a container.
And then they explode. And so they're creating shrapnel and everything as well.
Yeah, because the whole point is you put a small fuse in the thing and then you have that last long enough that the big fuse can put it up into the sky before it explodes and puts its innards out. That's the whole point of the engineering space she's coming from. So, of course, she's not launching solid balls. Of course, she's launching explodey balls.
Which is weird to me, right? Because that's not necessarily the progression of how firearms worked. Didn't you start off with just solid cannonballs?
Well, I don't actually know how the original Chinese transition from fireworks to cannons went. I know how European cannon technology starts and moves onwards, but I don't know how the Chinese invention process went. Like, they may very well have started out with explosive ordnance because they were starting with fireworks. I don't know anything about that progression. But yeah, I don't think Europeans figured out explosive cannonballs for a very long time. But that doesn't mean anything about, because they didn't start with fireworks, right? Like the whole progression in Europe is different than in China. I'm sure someone out there knows. There's probably some pretty cool books, wiki articles. Maybe I'll find some to throw in the show notes during the editing process. But I don't currently know anything about that.
The remaining man touched a small torch to a fuse sticking out of the sphere and rolled it into the tube. Then they turned the tube to face directly outwards. Some time goes by. Aludra lowered her flag. The soldier touched his burning torch to the side of the dragon. The explosive sound that followed was so powerful.
And we know she's got the whole slow match technology thing. We've seen that in other scenes with her. So she's got timeable fuses.
Right, and so then a boom was sharp. She heard in the distance what sounded like the echo of an explosion. She raised her hand to her breast and remembered to draw a breath. So they fire it, a breath passes, and then a pocket on the hillside exploded in a massive spray and dust and earth. So they fire it, it hits the ground, a second passes, and then it blows up.
Oh, interesting. I had not noticed the timing of that she has a chance to draw a breath between the launch and the explosion on the ground. I literally just blew right past that.
And then here again, something capable of smashing an iron sphere into the ground with such force that it blew open a hole, then perhaps exploded on its own. So it's the hole and then the explosion.
Wow. I am not a war-brained person. I did not notice all of these incredibly important details. I'm just like, it go boom anyway.
They pointed out multiple times because I always think of like you fire a cannonball, it hits something and it hits with enough force that it kind of creates its own shockwave explosion.
Right.
Because it's a big mass thing, right? But no, they're doing that and then the balls are exploding.
Even with a few seconds of delay. Right, depending on, how long the match has, how long the arc of the flight is, right? They're going to explode in the air or in the ground at varying times, depending. But, wow.
And it is true that cannons were, I believe, canonically, in our world, invented before small firearms. It's always easier to invent a bigger one before you miniaturize it. And so the cannon was the big one, and then guns were miniaturized cannons.
Yes, that is my understanding as well. It starts out with very big multi-person technology and eventually gets taken down to a little pocket gizmo.
But the invention of explosive ordnance, I think that was long after the invention of both cannons and probably guns.
But still, fireworks are explosive ordnance that predate both those things. So
Right.
I am very interested to fall down a rabbit hole learning about that on the Asian invention side, because I know enough about Europe. I don't care, but very curious.
I do like Aludra's like Brigida's like, oh yeah, I know what's inside a firework, and Aludra's like, don't open those. Those could explode in your face. And like, no, we know what's going on, right? Like that's just gunpowder.
But that's the standard line that all illuminators say is, how dare you?
And it's just that like reversion back to standard illuminator. It's just like an instinct for her, which I kind of liked.
Yeah.
And one thing we brushed over is Elayne has made 3 replicas of the Foxhead medallion. Even without having the original, she's able to duplicate it without having the original.
Right. She's got a certain plateau of manufacturing figured out. Oh, yeah. A picture in chat of the cannons that were used at Constantinople to take its walls down. So cool.
If anything, that doesn't have the bell shape at all. It's just a tube with reinforced.
Yeah, that's just the tube. Yeah.
With thicker parts of the circumference, whereas the bell shape is very much, I feel like, a more modern cannon. So yeah, I feel like they're just skipping some steps. Like Aludra is so good, she's like figured out, oh yeah, I could have these primitive cannons, but those are too primitive. I can in my head figure out the problems with them and get a more advanced version first time out.
Well, just like we're inventing steam engines and railroad track technology at the same time, more or less. Like we have some very, very clever engineers in this turning of the wheel, for sure.
The reloading process takes about 3 minutes, and they're going to get it down to 2, which still feels like a long time in battle. Yeah.
Yeah, she has it at 3 currently, and she's like, I'm going to get it. Yeah, exactly. Elayne says, well, that seems really fast. And I'm like, in battle, time is such an important resource. I see her aiming to get this down to a 90-second process if she can, But the
distance is what makes it quick, right? Because since you can fire multiple miles, it's like people have to cover the ground in between, and so you can get multiple shots off in the range that they have to cover.
Right. Well, and again, it comes down to scaling, right? Which is where Elayne goes from slightly skeptical to the resources of Andor are at your disposal. Please make as many of these things as you possibly can, as fast as you can, because we need this right now. Ooh, more pictures in chat. We've got a much more bell-shaped cannon mouth and also pictures of the ammo being used. Yeah, that's not explosive. That's just a big rock. Very big balls.
Who's got big balls? They've got big balls.
And then
You've got
we
the
have
biggest balls of them all.
sweaty balls.
I love to eat your sweaty balls.
Very salty.
They just fit perfectly in my mouth.
So, Elayne...
I always say to myself that I can't get enough of your sweaty balls. Every year, they're such a rare commodity. I tell my family how much I enjoy ingesting your sweaty balls. Sorry, anyway.
Are you quite finished?
Never. It's the best. Oh, God.
My God.
It's such a good parody, and it's so appropriate for podcasters.
Yeah. So Elayne says, I want the plans to standard lock and key. Aludra says, I don't care who has them as long as they are not Shanshan. And Elayne says something that really takes us down the road of like having a international doomsday device, right? You don't want to use them on other people. We're just going to use them on the Shanshan and Trollocs. But also, we don't want our enemies to have them.
Right.
Our enemies won't attack us if we have such an overwhelming weapon. Surely not. So I know I plugged Behind the Bastards 100,000 times on this podcast, but literally what they're doing last week, this week, and I think next week is the bastards who made the modern doomsday device that keeps us 15 minutes from the total end of the world at all times. And they talk about World War I as kind of being the first iteration of that, but really the nuclear arms race situation we find ourselves in now is the result of this thinking. If we have a big enough weapon, a big enough alliance in the case of World War I, if we have a strong enough alliance, then no one will fuck with us. And then, someone fucks with us and now we have a whole world war, blah, blah, blah. If we build a doomsday device, then no one else will want to provoke us to use the doomsday device. That puts us in a position of, well, if someone fucks with us, then we're going to pull the pin on the doomsday device. And
that's mad.
Yeah, and I see Elayne taking that very first, very logical, very reasonable step. Just, no, not the doomsday device. Don't build the Torment Nexus, Elayne. Don't do it. She's going to do it. She's totally going to do it because she's a pragmatic Queen of England. I mean, Andor.
Mm-hmm. And we know, like, from our world, what the history of guns means, right? Mm-hmm. We know automatic weapons. We know how bloody and brutal.
We know what happens when England gets firearms, okay? We know what happens.
And so it goes back to the vision of Matt bowling pins and knocking over pins and realizing that every time he knocks over the pins, it represents thousands upon thousands of people dying.
He reaches up and grabs a firework and has a firework in his hand, and men will die as a result. And oh no. And this also gives us one of the quotes from Brigida that's in that fan video that John Algen made for us.
Yes, one of my favorite.
Yeah, one of the best quotes. The world just changed, Elayne. This is where that comes from. Brigida's like, this is not old. This is not something that has happened before. This is new to me as someone who exists in this metaphysical, outside the wheel perspective. Like, this is new. This changes everything at a really profound level. And I love that she says that.
And that's all foreshadowing for after the book series.
Yeah. Well, because as Nentalk's saying here, this is putting the power of Aes Sedai in the hand of commoners. This is a genie you can't put back in the bottle. Even if you defeat the literal devil, the Fourth Age is going to have to contend with the fact that gunpowder technology exists and these plans exist and people have seen how effective cannons are. You cannot undo that knowledge in the Fourth Age. It's not going to happen.
Light Blinded Fool is giving us tons of good images of cannons. There's a good one that looks very bell-like here, the 14th century shipboard cannon. Just kind of looks like an extended bell.
Yeah, that's a good one. They not only fired stone shots, according to the accompanied caption. Oh, we've got some good nerdery in the chat today.
I think stone you'd have to be careful with because it would shatter. Depends
on the kind of stone. You'd have to be really good at selecting your rocks. You can't just put any old rock in there.
I like rocks.
Yeah. This is why iron ingots are better. Iron balls, cannonballs they're not usually granite, right? They're iron, refined.
And apparently Aludra has refined iron cannonballs and fills them full of gunpowder.
Yeah, and maybe shrapnel.
The outside becomes the shrapnel.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got the sort of, I would call what I can think of the modern cannon, or the revolutionary cannon, which is this like wooden structure on wheels with something sticking out behind it, and you have this very long sort of, how shall I say this, phallic looking cannon, right? Like,
well, and that's essentially what she invents with the dragon carts, right? They're
yes,
very mobile. If you
yes,
have like 3 men that can rotate it and pull it and reposition it, they don't have to pick it up and lift it. It's on wheels and has a tongue that can be attached to horses or whatever. And yeah, they're very much more like a long tapered bell-like structure where the wide end is at the loading end and the narrow end is at the shooty end.
and I'm being corrected. Those are American Civil War era, not Revolutionary era.
Ah, prior to rifle bores. But yeah, that would totally be a 4th Age cannon. Totally. Yeah, much more modern and elegant compared to the original. How can we make launching tubes for fireworks into a weapon of war? This is much more like, what if it was just a weapon of war and was not modified from anything?
Well, and aren't they all made out of bronze here, right, as opposed to iron? So you're going to have bigger cannons.
Right. That was the whole bell founder thing.
Yeah, is you have big, heavy, probably, these modern cannons that we're looking at here in these photos are made of steel and iron.
Right. So one does wonder how long it's going to take the metallurgical side of this engineering equation to catch up in the 4th Age. What if we didn't use bronze? What if we used lighter things? What if we started playing with alloys? Can we bring Quendiar into it, right?
Right, yeah, God, the Quendiar cannon, right? Like, then you could fire with as much powder as you wanted, and
Yeah.
Quendiar cannonballs?
I mean, yeah. They wouldn't be very good for being exploding ordnance, though.
No, but like, good luck stopping that, right? Like, what if you're trying to take down a castle wall, right?
Well, I mean, Quendiar is still going to get stopped by physics. Like, it's only going to be able to embed itself so deep into a stone wall.
Right, but all that momentum has to go into the wall because none of it can go into shattering the ball.
Oh, no, you're right. That would make it a much more effective method of transferring force because it would just be like, shrug, all that force goes into the wall. Yeah. I
mean, I guess it depends. I guess if it shatters, it all goes into the wall anyway. It might not make much of a difference, but still.
It would definitely make difference for making the cannons themselves. Ooh, jar cannons, hand cannons. Man, chat is really providing us with so many fun images. See, this is what you all miss if you don't come to the live recordings, is you don't get early examples of hand cannons.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of... I mean, steel is definitely around in this age. It's not like they don't have steel, right? We've seen it... The swords themselves, right, are steel.
Yeah.
Much less, like, I feel like we've seen other things used. So, if nothing else, Perrin has a modern forge. Yeah, and this is a place where technology evolves quickly.
Yeah, the last battle is going to have a lot of engineering momentum left over after it concludes, where people are going to be completely in the mental headspace of how do we make more weapons of war? Let's fight the Shanshan, yeah! And, pretty soon they're going to have nukes. That's all I'm saying.
And you have the real life lessons, right? Those you existed, you survived the last battle, you used those weapons, and now you're like, well, what did I wish I had, right?
Right, yeah, totally.
And, I guess I wish I had another chapter to go over, but I think we're done with this one.
Yeah, we managed to squeeze an hour and a half out of all that.
Awesome.
It's been great. Thank you, everyone, for showing up for today's recording.
Really appreciate the live audience.
Yeah, we are going to record, I believe, one more week.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go on break for Christmas for a couple of weeks. Not Christmas, we're just going to go on holiday break for a couple of weeks. But we'll record one more week before going on break.
But it will be over the Christmas, New Year's holiday that we're not going to record, which means you'll probably not get episodes sometime in January.
Yeah. I'll probably do some rewinds in the feed or do some cross posts from some other podcasts that I make because I apparently make podcasts like it's going out of style. The number of people who are like just casually floating podcast ideas at me, I'm just like, some of y'all are going to need to start paying me for this.
this is not the right forum to discuss that issue. Because, like, Kaladin invents therapy, and one of the other characters who's a world hopper is like, oh, you've invented being a therapist. And Kaladin's like, oh, I guess I'm a therapist, even though I don't know what that is. And then it's just like, oh my God, how are you?
Wow.
Yeah. It's really, really dumb where he's going around, I'm a therapist. I don't know what that is, but that's what I am. How can I help you? And it's bad. It's really, really bad.
Man.
In a lot of ways. Yeah. I don't like jumping on the bandwagon of hatred for Sanderson's latest book, but I don't like it.
Look, sometimes the bandwagon is pointed in the direction that aligns.
Yeah. And I feel like Sanderson has hit that point that I've seen a lot of very successful directors and filmmakers do, where they have some sort of success, some sort of breakout. You're a genius. Oh my God, I can't believe you've managed this. You know, M. Night Shyamalan. Oh God, there's 1,000 other examples. I mean, even George Lucas, right? Like this idea that, oh my God, you're a genius. You've created this incredible piece of artwork. When it's like, yeah, you were there, but it was more the circumstances and everybody else who worked on it. And like, or even it was just a single idea that was a flash in the pan. And then there's no one to say no. And the work starts to become very navel-gazy in this way that is like, you really, it's not that you're writing bad work anymore. It just needs to be edited better, and you need to be told no occasionally. Like Sanderson's latest book needed to be cut down by like 200 pages.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's rough. And I don't know how to solve that problem, because you want to give people who are making great artwork room to continue to make their artwork. But at the same time, people who are wildly successful often lose themselves in that success.
And then they take up all the oxygen in the room, so that way other people can't like come into the space. And
yes, yeah, and that's something that I am also frustrated with Sanderson, where it does feel like he is dominating the fantasy space right now. And it's like, every time I go on a forum and I'm like, oh, I want to read fantasy, what should I get into? And everyone's like, start with Mistborn. And I'm like, I just don't think that's a good necessarily starting fantasy spot, right? Like, it is accessible in a lot of ways, but it also, kind of misrepresents a lot about the fantasy genre.
It represents a lot of things that are not what we want about the fantasy genre. We don't, the domination by tall white men who like Christianity and capitalism is, it's old. It's old.
And there's just inherent biases in his projects that, like, he's obviously trying to overcome, but it doesn't mean that he's not overcoming a bias that is there.
And he's overcoming it by gamifying the process, which is not the deep inner work necessary to actually unpack your biases. That's just gamifying what critics are saying for better, ROI.
Oh my God. Side note, right? I need my gutters cleaned on my house, and I don't have the proper ladder and safety equipment to get up on my roof. I just don't have it, right? So I tried to get a quote for gutter cleaning. I gave my phone number to one website. I have been getting 20 spam calls a day for the last week. I am so upset. I am so frustrated that I can't even get a legitimate quote from a legitimate business without getting bombarded. And they're trying to replace my gutter, selling me replacement gutters and upgrades and gutter guards. And I'm like, I just want a quote on someone to come clean my gutters.
Yeah, you gotta just word of mouth that shit. You can't trust the internet anymore.
And I made a mistake. I use Google, and this is me being an old millennial thinking that Google was still right, a good way to find services like this. And it's not anymore. We're back to the era of I can't look someone up in the yellow pages. I just literally have to ask around. And nobody I know has gotten their gutters cleaned, So I'm like, I don't know how to find a good, reliable gutter cleaner. And I'm getting these just constant spam calls where they're where even when I say hello and try and talk to the person, they're hanging up on me. And I'm like, what's the point?
That sucks.
And then I know I got a call where the voice message was 23 minutes long, and it was just him sitting with his family at the dinner table, And I'm like, oh my God, how did you This is from a previous number that had spam called me earlier in the day, and then he must have butt dialed me again later. And yeah, it's been such a weird experience. I'm just like, I have to go through my phone and count how many spam calls I'm getting because it's incredible. First real downside, I think, to owning a house is like, how do you get people who can legitimate workers who can come and do the work you want without getting just bombarded with spam?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been a huge boon that my stepdad and one of my good friends are contractors, like above board. Like, I've been around that stuff my whole life. I know people who know people. Like, that's like, oh yeah, you just gotta find someone in your network because I know people. I know lots of people who know other people, and it's like that network exists. But if you don't have that, how do you tap in? That's rough. That's rough.
And I can do a lot of work myself, right? That's why it's not that big of a deal for me, most of the work. But just getting up on the roof for me is, especially because like I'm in this townhome that shares walls, so you really have to access the roof from the front or the back. And I just, it's 3 stories because it's a basement garage on the first story. And yeah, it's just not. You need a specialized ladder to get up there.
Yeah. Well, keep pushing it into your, and more accurately, never social circle, and eventually someone will pop up.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.